20.
Every day there is a new explosion in Russia occupying Ukraine. Russia has become one of the most dangerous places in the world. Russian people are in great fear. It seems that these explosions will continue until Russia withdraws from Ukraine. Let's explain the latest explosions news in Russia and the latest situation of the war in Ukraine in all details for ANKA news followers. The latest explosion in Russia occurred in Kuban. The Kuban region, located in the south of Russia, is east of Crimea. This region, which has important coasts, is very active for Russia's trade. One of the largest shopping centers in Kuban was located in the town of Tbilskaya. A huge fire broke out in this shopping center in the early hours of the morning. The fire spread over an area of 1,000 square meters and could not be extinguished for hours. In recent days, the Russian fire brigade has been having a very difficult time because fires are breaking out one after another in shopping centers in many regions of Russia. Almost all of these fires start early in the morning, before the shopping centers open. It is quite remarkable that all the fires in shopping centers occur at these hours. Civilians are not harmed in these fires, but the Russian economy is seriously damaged. The Russian government refrains from making statements about these fires. Many journalists in the Russian press claim that these fires were set by Ukrainian intelligence. When these fires, which broke out in many places, including Moscow's largest shopping center, are examined, interesting results emerge. In Russia, it is claimed that these shopping centers damaged by fire belong to Russian oligarchs. These oligarchs are forcing the citizens of both Russia and Ukraine into poverty by supporting the war. The fires in the shopping malls are causing great damage to the fortunes of these oligarchs. The Russian people also hate these oligarchs. Russian citizens think that the war must end as soon as possible. That's why they are very angry against the people who support the war, because the war affects Russian citizens the most. Russian citizens are having a big problem because of the high inflation in the country. Citizens have difficulty even meeting their basic needs. Even the stores in the busiest streets of Russia are going bankrupt. The Russian people do not have the economic power to spend. On the other hand, hundreds of thousands of people have joined the army, creating chaos in Russian companies. Qualified personnel cannot be found in Russia. Many companies have gone bankrupt. In addition, millions of Russian citizens left their country after Putin's mobilization decision. Meanwhile, there is also a problem because people who left their country resigned from their jobs. This sudden and massive migration damaged the Russian economy. Putin could not foresee this problem. The biggest blow to the Russian economy is Ukraine. The Ukrainian army showed a historic resistance and completely disrupted Russia's war plans. The Russian army, which did not get what it expected in this war, lost millions of dollars. The Ukrainian army managed to retake most of the territories occupied by Russia. Ammunition depots belonging to the Russian army were also captured during operations in these regions. The Russian army is having a very hard time. Every day, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry publishes data on Russia's total losses in this war. According to today's data, the Russian army has lost 102,000 soldiers in this war. Due to this huge loss, the entire formation of the Russian army has been disrupted. Zelensky, the young leader of Ukraine, is managing this war very successfully. Zelensky's policies are completely changing the course of this war. In particular, Zelensky's diplomatic negotiations are yielding very important results. Zelensky, who recently visited the USA and Poland, returned from these meetings with positive results. Zelensky's success is not limited to this. Zelensky has instructed Ukrainian commanders to implement the latest war strategies. The Ukrainian army has managed to win this war on many fronts by following a very clever war strategy. The fighting in Bakhmut was the most important example of this. Today, the Ukrainian army shot videos from around Bakhmut, showing the world that Ukraine is still in control of the city. Russia organized massive operations to capture this city, but the Ukrainian army managed to show a historic resistance against these operations. The city of Bakhmut became a grave for Russia. Russia lost thousands of soldiers trying to capture this city. However, Russia still continues its attacks, because the Russian press had announced that this city would be captured. The Russian army, which does not want to appear unsuccessful in this city, continues its attacks to capture the city. The Ukrainian army is very determined not to allow the occupation of this city. Ukrainian soldiers are gaining the upper hand on many fronts, not just Bakhmut. Russian troops are forced to abandon their positions and flee. Russia is constantly revising its targets. When the winter is over, the Ukrainian army may carry out bigger operations and put Russia in a difficult situation. The Kremlin administration will decide on the course of this war in the winter months. Russian soldiers think that this war must end as soon as possible. Russian commanders are allegedly pressuring Putin on this issue. Putin is determined to continue the war because Putin knows that this defeat will completely end his reputation. Putin, who wants to win this war in order to continue his political career, is making aggressive statements. This situation is causing many crises within the Russian administration. Ukraine's operations are shaking the Kremlin the most. The death toll of more than 100,000 Russian soldiers could be one of the breaking points of this war. Experts argued that 100,000 deaths was the psychological limit for Russian society. The Russian public is now much more angry about the deaths. Russian citizens say that this war must end as soon as possible. The crossing of the psychological limit has also led to an increase in protests in Russia. The Ukrainian army has had the psychological advantage since the beginning of the war. Russia has a much larger army than Ukraine, but the great motivation and fight of the Ukrainian army is rewriting history. Ukrainian soldiers are kicking Russia's ass. This major defeat for Russia could change the course of history completely. In a period of chaos in Russia, the country could completely fall apart. This would lead to an irreversible loss of Russian power. If this happens, NATO would become the world's only major military power. Regimes in all the Eastern Bloc countries could collapse. The whole world is following the war between Russia and Ukraine. The intelligence agencies of dozens of states are trying to gather secret information about the course of the war. One of the biggest political ruptures in world history is about to take place. If Ukraine wins this war, all the repressive regimes supported by Russia could fall. Zelensky could go down in history as a commander who made the whole world more democratic and peaceful. What do you think about Russia's big defeat? What do you think is behind the shopping mall explosions in Russia? Do you consider the operations of the Ukrainian army successful? What do you think about Zelensky? Share your opinions with us. Follow us for more updates.